Man, it is good to be back. And I gotta say, Kite Man, episode 6, Mother Daughter Day. Hell yeah. Pretty good. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, right here back at variants cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, Kite Man, hell yeah. And I gotta say, the episode played out very, very interesting. A lot of the plot for this episode really felt a lot like it was kind of a Mike Myers esque episode. And I'll phrase that in the sense of they covered Mike Myers kind of in the story of it covered both his references to Austin Power Days, which one of my favorite trilogies of all time. It's stupid funny, love it. And then on top of that, a lot of this episode felt a lot like Shrek 2 was played out in a lot of major regards throughout the story, and I'll elaborate more on that here in a second. But Golden Glider kind of started this episode off with the struggling dynamic of she has mommy issues because Becca wants nothing to do to her. She didn't want anything to do with her in the beginning, and then she didn't want anything to do with her after everything that happened that ended her father's life because of Golden Glider, and for other reasons, just genuinely now that she's back and is full capacity to be a mom, still wants nothing to do with Golden Glider in any single way, shape, or form. At this point, it's a very, very much forced relationship. It's someone who's very, very much infatuated with you. You're not feeling them at all in any way, shape, or form. And Rebecca was able to pick up on the fact that, hey, Golden Glider's got mommy issues. Kite Man straight up has daddy issues. So she hit him directly and verbally below the belt. She went for the one shot that she knows will absolutely tick Kite Man off more than anything else. Hey, you have no money, you have no powers, you're not even cool. Hit him on absolutely all three major points. He's someone with no prospect, no future, and no powers, which as a villain is exactly the opposite of what you want to be. You want to be have all the prospects going to where someone could potentially believe you're into the world domination thing. You have the powers to make that happen, or at least you or at least have some kind of cool gimmick where people are like, yeah, this is super cool, this is awesome. We like what he's got going on. He's got like his own following. It's pretty awesome. Got to root for him in that regard, kind of thing. Kite Man, none of those. He's a dude with a kite. There's not really a whole heck of a lot to do, so he ultimately turns to the bartender during shortly after Joe's funeral, which Joe was the head of the twin that had passed away like in episode 2, and is now just finally getting buried. And we still have the two weird head dynamic thing going on here. We'll get more on that later. But ultimately, Kite Man was like, "Hey, I have no powers. Becca thinks I'm lame. There's no way that my new mom-in-law potentially is gonna like me. So I need to do some radical change." The bartender calls him and Bane an idiot because Bane's over there lamenting the fact Becca doesn't even know he exists. So he is like, "Look, basically, pull yourselves up, get your life together. Kite Man, here's a thing. Go over to Etrigan's. He might be able to get you a power set, something to maybe make you a little bit more presentable overall to Becca." Bane, on the other hand, then goes off and goes to find a date. If you remember from Harley Quinn's Valentine's Day, one of our most watched videos of all time, over 39,000 views. Thank you so much for that, guys. Bane ended up going out on a date with Betty the Dominatrix. Things seem to be going super, super well with them. Their relationship seems to be going in a semi happier way than everything else involving this series. Bane has been a highlight of everything thus far. In each and every episode, you hear me talk about how much I enjoy just Bane being on screen. He's a refreshing character. He's very straightforward. He makes a lot of weird social faux pas and blunders, but at the same time, he's still true enough to the original Bane character that you're like, yeah, I get it. This works for me. I'm not mad about it at all. Let's continue to roll with it. So Golden Glider decides, hey, mother daughter day, let's try and get me and Becca in a room. Becca in a state of panic. It's like, hey, Malice, come hang out with me. Malice decides to hang out because she's like, all my rich people won't hang with me. I'll hang out with the poor people, which is Golden Glider and her mom. Decide to go have a girls' day. They start all of a sudden. Malice and Becca start really bonding, really hitting things off. They start talking about getting intimate body parts pierced, some of which I'm not even sure you can even say on the YouTube platform. So I'm just gonna run around it. They decide to get certain areas pierced. All of a sudden, Golden Glider feels some kind of way about it. Then she's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this rash, impulsive decision. My mom will eventually follow suit. We'll start getting along. Things will get better together because we're working, towards some kind of like common goal. We'll have glamour shots after this. Things will be all copacetic. Golden Glider goes through, gets her thing done, comes out just to find out that Malice and Rebecca have taken off. And she goes, chases after them, finds out that they're having their glamour shots done. Everything's all good for them. But Golden Glider's like, look, why don't you love me? Why don't you care about me? Is there anything going on in this relationship we could even work or talk about? It's like there's got to be some kind of common ground that we can find to make things really just work for us. And ultimately, Becca finally comes out, and after much pulling of the teeth, is just straight up like, look, I didn't want you then. I didn't want you after you basically took our father out of all of our lives. And then on top of that, now that I'm back, the last thing I want to do is immediately be forced and cornered into a relationship I'm not sure I'm ready for or even care about. And then Golden Glider is like, look, I didn't want my powers that caused everything to happen with Dad. Ultimately, for the conversation with, look, I didn't want you or these powers. Looks like we're both stuck with things we didn't want, which, causes extreme friction on the relationship. Ultimately, they end up going back to the apartment. And then Becca's like, look, I got to use the restroom. And then Golden Glider pulls the old fast one on her. It's like, look, go to the bathroom and into the hall. The one we all know is for the time travel. And then next thing you hear the music. So Becca has been sent back to the past, completely outside the picture. I'm sure Bane will deeply lament this, but he seems to be in a very stable moment with Betty because they ended up going back to Betty's place and they ended up having a pretty good time of things, I'd say. They talked about a couple stuff. They both kind of agreed they've never really been anybody's first choice, but ultimately now them being together means that they can be each other's first choice in a manner of speaking, and that everything that they're doing is above board and nothing that's too really out of the question for two consenting adults. So they're both seemingly happy with what they have going on here. I still think it's interesting that Ben keeps the mask on for those kinds of moments, but hey, that's just going to be something that obviously makes sense for the character. Kite Man, after being completely demanned in every way, shape, and form, and it goes over to Etrigan's like, hey, give me some powers. Etrigan's like, look, we're owned by Villigans. I can't do any of those kinds of deals anymore. You're going to go have to see Helen Villigan about all this. He goes see Helen Villigan. Villigan's like, look, I'll trade you some powers, but you need to give me your kite. Ultimately, Kite Man hands over his kite after some deep flashbacks and some lamenting, and then the kite is eventually thrown into the fireplace. Kite Man, in exchange, gets powers which makes him called Beast Mode, and by giving the middle finger to anybody or anything, he's now able to control their clothes, their surroundings, and some of the stuff, and he calls himself Beast Mode. But also, he's inherited what is just a very, very massive ego, and he's not really sure how to handle things. He's too big for his britches, so to speak. So then he ends up going back in Golden Glider in a state of vulnerability. It's like, hey, Kite Man, let's talk about things. Let's try to work on things. What the heck is going on with you? And he's straight up just a jerk to her and says, look, your powers are weird. They're bizarre. You're the results. Like, you're the reason your dad's no longer with you. You're the reason your mom doesn't like you. Kite Man has gone full destructive relationship mode. Things end up very, very rocky. He ends up leaving in a huff. And now Helen Villigan, we left with her watching through the camera, saying that he is Kite Man, beast mode now, is perfect for her plan. What plan that is, we'll have to stay tuned for next week's episode. Be sure to hit the lovely red subscribe button. Remember, we have the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. How to enter, go there to our community post on our YouTube page. Hit that button there. As long as you're a U.S. resident over 18 years of age and subscribe to the channel, you should be eligible to enter into our lovely contest and hopefully win a fantastic prize. We'll have one lucky winner. I've been Brent for Geek Variants. I'll see you guys personally Saturday for more My Hero Academia. You'll see me tomorrow for more Supermarket Similar. Have a good one.